You know, in the world of investing, a really good story can sometimes be your worst enemy. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a powerful system called Vault21. It's designed to do one thing really well: replace those dangerous, compelling narratives with disciplined, evidence-based decisions.
So let's just cut right to the chase with this question, because it's at the heart of everything. Is your investment thesis a story, or is it a testable claim? The difference between those two is absolutely massive, and honestly, it can be the deciding factor in whether your portfolio succeeds or fails.
Look, our brains are just wired to love a good story. It's how we make sense of the world. But in investing, that can be a fatal flaw. We find a narrative that just feels right, we get emotionally attached, and before you know it, we're deep in the trap of confirmation bias. But what happens when that convincing story leads you right off a cliff?
Okay, so if compelling stories are the trap, how do we get out of it? How do we build a process that's truly robust and based on actual evidence? Well, that brings us to the core of what we're talking about today, a system designed from the ground up for absolute clarity.
This is Vault21, and I want you to think of it like a private operating system for your financial brain. It's not a brokerage, it's not a trading platform. It's a structured layer for your memory and your reasoning. Its whole job is to preserve the raw evidence, to track your why, to monitor the signals that matter, and to explicitly link that evidence to the decisions you make.
The entire system is built to consistently answer 5 crucial questions that, let's be honest, every single investor has to face over and over again. What do we actually own? Why in the world do we own it? What evidence truly supports our thesis? And more importantly, what evidence challenges it? What out there in the world could happen that would force us to change our plan? And finally, what's actually changed since the last time we looked at this?
Now, let's get into the core framework that makes all of this possible. This is where things get really interesting, with a concept called the 5 analyst lenses. The central idea here is so powerful. Relying on a single narrator, a single guru, a single worldview, that's a massive liability. So instead of just following one person's line of thinking, Vault21 forces you to triangulate a view by looking at a problem through 5 different, complementary analytical lenses.
First up is the Sightbringer lens. In plain English, this is the lens for spotting the big potential shifts on the horizon. It's your directional hypothesis generator, and it's best for identifying those high-conviction signals, especially in areas where institutional trust seems to be breaking down.
Next, we have the lens named after the famous contrarian investor Hugh Hendry, and it acts as a crucial counterweight. This lens is all about stress-testing absolutist claims. It asks, well, wait a minute. How can a damaged system adapt and survive way longer than anyone expects? It's the voice of nuance, reminding us that complex systems often bend instead of just breaking.
Then we have the Lynn Alden lens. This is your how does the machine actually work check. It grounds every grand narrative in hard data, looking at the real nitty-gritty stuff like liquidity flows and fiscal dominance. It asks, does the plumbing of the market actually support this story?
To add that critical historical perspective, we have the Ray Dalio lens. This one zooms way out. We're not talking about this quarter, we're talking about long-term debt cycles and historical patterns. It forces us to ask if what we're seeing today rhymes with major regime changes from the past. It provides that context that is so easy to forget.
And finally, there's the Peter St-Onge lens, which is all about incentives. This lens helps explain why institutions, like central banks, might repeatedly make choices that seem totally irrational from the outside. It forces you to analyze the pressures and the mechanics that are actually driving policy decisions.
And this is where the magic really happens. When several of these lenses agree on a thesis, yeah, your conviction can start to rise. But when they disagree, that is not a failure. In fact, that's the most valuable signal you can possibly get. It's a flashing yellow light, warning you that your timing might be off, or that your big idea has a serious blind spot. It's a built-in defense against overconfidence.
So this whole multi-lens approach leads us directly to the system's most powerful feature, the ability to take a simple story and turn it into something that can actually be tested.
This quote from the user guide just says it all. The point of using these 5 lenses isn't to create a better, more convincing story. It's the exact opposite. It's to turn that story into a testable structure. It's all about deconstruction, not just building a better narrative.
So what's the real difference here? Well, a story is often vague, it's emotional, and it's really hard to disprove, right? But a falsifiable claim, the kind this system forces you to build, is specific. It's evidence-based. And most importantly, it has clear, predefined conditions under which it would be proven wrong.
And this template shows you exactly how Vault21 forces that discipline. It takes an idea from just a vague thought to a structured decision. You have to state the claim, identify the lenses, and, here's the most important part, list both the confirming and the disconfirming evidence. You are forced to confront the question, what specific evidence would prove me wrong?
Okay, we've covered a lot of the theory. Now let's see how this all fits together in a practical, operational workflow.
This diagram shows you the whole shebang, so let's just walk through it. It starts up at the top with ingestion, where you're just gathering all your raw evidence, articles, data, market signals, you name it. That info then flows into filtering, where you try to separate the signal from all the noise. But the heart of the system is right here in the middle, the analysis cycle. This is where you apply the 5 lenses, where you create that falsifiable claim, and where you define your triggers. And notice, this isn't a one-time event. It feeds into a continuous review loop, forcing you to constantly check your evidence, review your positions, and refine your whole framework over time.
So why go through all this trouble? Why not just stick with the easy stories? Let's wrap up by focusing on why this kind of disciplined framework is an absolute game changer, especially for financial advisors and serious individual investors.
Ultimately, it's all about building a resilient process. This system makes your reasoning auditable, so you can never just hand-wave it away. You can defend every single recommendation with source-backed evidence. It forces you to draw a clean line between what's a fact and what's just an opinion. And most critically, it makes you decide beforehand exactly what evidence would force you to change your mind. This final quote just captures the entire philosophy perfectly. It's all about creating an unbroken chain of logic. Triggers show what to watch. Forecasts show what you believe. Links show why you believe it. And your actions, well, they show what you actually did. Nothing is left to a vague memory or some half-remembered narrative. So we'll leave you with this final thought, a question to apply to your own process. For your single most important investment thesis right now, what specific, observable evidence would prove you wrong? If you can't answer that question clearly and immediately, you might have a good story, but you don't yet have a testable claim.